All right, in this video, we're going to create a text input group component for each of these fields right here. So I'm going to put this in the layout folder. So inside components, inside layouts, let's create a file and we're going to call it TextInputGroup.js. Not just text input, because it's going to be the whole group, including the div with the class of form group. Now this is going to be a functional component, a stateless functional component, and it's just going to take in properties. So every attribute you see here, like name, type, even like onChange, value, these are all going to be props for this component. So first thing we'll do, actually we can just do RFC tab if you're using the React, the Visual Studio Code extension. And let's bring in prop types as well, and you can actually just do IMP. Yeah, what is it? IMPT tab, and that'll bring in prop types. So I want to give this a name. I'm going to take away the export default, and I'm going to say const text input group, and set that equal to, okay, just like that, and then just export it down here. So text input group. Okay, now it's going to take in everything as props. Now I'm going to use destructuring here so that we don't have to, so when we're down here we don't have to say props.value and all that stuff. We can just say value. So let's go ahead and use destructuring here and put in the props that we expect. So we expect like a label, we expect a name, a value, a placeholder, a type, an input type, and then an onChange. Okay, so those are the things that we expect to have in this component, and then we want to return here. So let's say return, and in these parentheses, I'm going to go and I'm going to grab the first form group. So right here, div class form group. I'm going to grab this whole thing right here, and we're going to paste that right in here, save it, and it should format it nicely. And then we want to make this stuff dynamic. So for instance, the type should be equal to the type that's brought in by props. Up here, let's call this the label. So right here, this is going to be label, and we're bringing that in right here. Let's see. So the HTML4, let's make that the name. So whatever the name is, we'll put there. And right here, the name will obviously be the name that's passed in. Okay, class name. We're just going to leave this. We're going to have the same class names. We will be dealing with dynamic class names later for validation, but we'll get to that when the time comes. So placeholder is going to be equal to placeholder. And then value is going to be equal to the value, and onChange will be equal to onChange. Okay, so all of this stuff is just coming from the props. Now we could have just as well just said props, and then for each one said props.type and so on, but I think it's neater to do it this way. Okay, so now that we have that done, let's add our prop types and any default props that we have. So we'll go down here and we'll say, what is this called? Text input group dot prop types. Okay, so we're going to set, we have a name, which is going to be prop types, and that's a string. And we'll say is required. Okay, we're going to copy some of these down. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4 more. So the next one is going to be a placeholder, which is also going to be a string. And let's do a value, which will be a string. All these will be strings except for onChange, which is a function. So this will be type, which is a string, and then onChange, that's actually going to be a func. Like that. So I think we got them all right. Oh, label. So label, prop types, and that's going to be a string. Okay, and let's just double check here. Label, name, value, placeholder, type, on change. So it looks like we got them all. Now the only default prop that I want is the type. Okay, the default type is going to be text. If we want, and we do have an email field, so that one will actually pass in type as email. But the rest of them we don't even need to pass type because we're going to set that as the default. So let's go down here and say text input group dot default props, and we want to set that equal to an object, and we're going to say type equals text. Okay, text is going to be the default, and that should do it for this component. So let's save it, and now let's implement it. So we'll go to add contact. We need to bring it in. So up at the top here, let's go right here and import. Whoops, we don't want that. It's exported as default, so we don't want the curly braces. So we want text input group from, and it's going to be in .. It's in the layout folder, and then it's text input group. So we're bringing that in here, and we're going to go down to where we have our first div with the class of form group, and we're going to replace it with a text input group component. So let's completely get rid of this. So this div here, and let's just move this stuff down. So we're going to say text input group, and it's going to be, we're just going to do that, and then we want to pass in all of its props. Whoops. So we want to pass in the label. So the label is going to be name with a capital N. Remember, the label is this right here, this part. And next we'll go ahead and do the name. So for this particular input, the name is name. Then we want to do the placeholder, which will be enter name. And let's do the value, which is going to be the name coming from the state, which we defined right here. Okay, so we're inputting that. And then we need the on change. Now the on change is going to be this dot on change for all of them. So we'll pass that in. All right, so this looks a lot neater and cleaner than having to do this for every field. And if we wanted to add more fields, we could just simply use a text input group component. Excuse me. So let's grab this, and then let's replace both of these. So the divs here, we'll get rid of those two divs, and we're going to put this on, we're going to paste this in twice like that, and then we'll just modify the input or the data. Now this one, notice that I didn't put a type in because we set the default type to text right here. So the default type is going to be text if you don't include a type. Now the second input is an email, so I am going to include a type here of email. Okay, let's change the name to email. Let's change the label to email. Placeholder, we'll say enter email, and the value here will also be email. Simple. And then here we have our phone. This is going to be a text field, so we don't need to define the type. Name will be phone. Placeholder, let's say enter phone, and then this value here will be phone, and that should do it. So let's save, and we should get the same result, hopefully. Good. Let's open up our React DevTools and make sure everything is structured correctly. So we have our provider, we have our header, add contact. If we look in here, we have all our div stuff for the card, and then we have our 3 text input group components. And if we look at that, you'll see all the props down here. So the label, the name, the on change, which is a function, placeholder, type, and value. Cool. If I type in here, you'll see the prop, the value prop updates. So that's exactly what we want. And let's just make sure that this still actually works. I don't see why it wouldn't, but we'll submit it anyway. So we'll say Jack Smith. That's not an email address. And it works. Good. All right, so in the next video, what I want to do is add a little bit of validation, because right now we can do this. We don't want to be able to do this. There has to be a name, there has to be a phone number, email, or there has to be a name and an email, I guess. Or we could make them all. It's up to you what you want to do. I think we're going to do just name and email. Now, if we do type something in here, we will get the HTML5 message that says it has to be an email address. But it does let us submit nothing. I mean, we could simply just say required. We could add on required like that to all of these and just forget about validation at all in React. But I want you guys to know how to do it, and I want to take advantage of Bootstrap's nice UI feature where it makes it red and it gives you the error message underneath and stuff like that. You know, just so you guys know how to do it, I guess. It's not something we have to do, but we'll get to that in the next video.